Hi there, my name is Amanda Miller and I'm with Leadership Northern Colorado. Excited to welcome Carrie Rossman today to share her leadership moment with us as part of our monthly series. So Carrie, thank you for being here. We've got a few people jumping in through the waiting room, so we're just going to keep rolling as they join us. I first want to share a quick thank you to our sponsors. We are so grateful for their contribution to Leadership Northern Colorado, and without their support, we would not be able to do these programs. So I want to thank Elevations Credit Union and UC Health for supporting Leadership Northern Colorado and these leadership moment sessions. So again, want to welcome everyone. We've got a few people who have joined us. Thanks for being here today. And we are going to start with our interview here in just a moment. I'm going to pin Carrie and I'm going to pin myself. So you will see us here on the screen. And if you have joined us here on Zoom, if you wouldn't mind staying on mute. And if you have questions, we invite you to drop those into the chat. And Carrie and I will get to your questions here at the end of our conversation. So Carrie, welcome. We are thrilled to have you here. Carrie is an alum of Leadership Northern Colorado and is serving as the Vice President of Association Advancement for the YMCA of the Rockies. So Carrie, to start, if you want to take just a few minutes and share with us a little bit more about what you do and who you are.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure. I live in Loveland, Colorado, with my husband and 3 kiddos. 2 of them are in the Thompson School District and one's about to start preschool. And I previously was with the Better Business Bureau serving Northern Colorado and Wyoming, so spent plenty of time crisscrossing Weld and Larimer counties and up into the great state of Wyoming. And then about 5 years ago, I started working with YMCA of the Rockies, overseeing our philanthropic work. And today, as Vice President of Association Advancement, I continue that work and then also have taken on leadership of our environmental sustainability efforts and our impact efforts so that we're demonstrating both all of our economic, social, and environmental impact as an organization.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing, Carrie. And I've had a wonderful time getting to know you over the last few years. And as I mentioned, you were in our class of 2020 for Leadership Northern Colorado, and you had that super long, stretched out year plus with the program. So again, thank you for sharing time today. We wanted to dive in a little bit more about the work of the YMCA of the Rockies. If you can share with us some of the priorities of the Y as we're here in the second half of 2022.
Absolutely. Well, you know, the YMCA of the Rockies is not a typical YMCA. It's not a downtown swim and gym and community center. Our colleagues that do that work across the nation and the globe do phenomenal work. We're blessed to really function as a camp and conference center that serves over 225,000 guests a year from many different types of groups that come and spend time with us, families, family reunions, and then kids that come to our day camp and our overnight camp. So we're not what you think of when you think of the YMCA. We have 2 properties, one that's about 800 acres backing up to Rocky Mountain National Park in Estes Park or just outside of Estes Park. And the other location is in Grand County where we have about 5,000 acres really between Winter Park and Granby that serve that region, and that's where our overnight youth camp is as well. So our priorities, you know, we feel like we're in a really good place. The past 2 years have been COVID recovery and really being smart with resources. And we were supposed to update our strategic plan in 2020 and felt like that wasn't quite the right time to be doing that type of work. So we operated under what we called a bridge strategy for the past 2 years. And our focus with that was that we were going to regain our financial strength, that we were going to continue to deliver on our mission, and that we were going to be laying the groundwork for a strong future. So fast forward to 2020, our board of directors and leadership staff believe that now is the time to be doing strategic planning. So we had a group that worked really towards the end of 2021 and into 2022 on that effort, and then came away with a strategic plan that includes 5 key priority areas. And those include our mission growth and guest experience, which covers a lot. It's all things from continuing to expand camp to serve more kids, to having standards for the product that we deliver to all of our guests. The second area is attracting, retaining, and engaging staff. Sorry, there's a car going by out here. YMCA of the Rockies hasn't been immune to the staff challenges that face many organizations across our country. And we know, and it's also not inexpensive to live in the Rocky Mountains. So we know that we've got a lot of opportunity there, and really view staff as part of our mission. They're not a means to the end. They are part of the mission. And Amanda, I know you were a staff member back in the day, and definitely have experienced that. The 3 other areas really, I think, are future looking, though we've started to do some work in these spaces previously. The first being diversity, equity, and inclusion. Our mission statement says that we are for all, and we want to continue to live into that. So engaging partners and groups and individuals to know that this place is welcoming for all. Environmental sustainability is another key area. We get to operate in the Rocky Mountains, and we know that we need to be great stewards of the environment in which we get to operate. And then the last area is technology. And that we discovered through COVID that we all love technology and we all hate it, right? But people could stay with us longer and embrace being in the mountains and having respite in the mountains if they could also have technology to work from our locations, to allow their kids to go to school during COVID, to hop on a Zoom when they need to. So we've really have made and are continuing to make significant investments across the scope of technology, everything from connectivity to the critical importance of security to all of our systems that serve both our staff and our guests. So 5 big ambitious areas, but we're really excited about what the future is going to bring.
Awesome. That is very exciting. Thanks, Carrie. Through all those things that you've mentioned, we can only imagine the impact that comes from your visitors to the Y, but also, as you mentioned, the people that work there. When you think of the larger community, how does the work of the Y really impact the future of our Northern Colorado area?
That's a great question. I'm going to try to share my screen to show an impact infographic from this past year. Let's see. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
all right.
Coming up. Yep.
So this is our 2021 impact infographic, and it's really just a snapshot of how we believe we can serve all of our guests, many of which come, and our staff, many of which come from the Northern Colorado community, but really the entire globe. Just a couple of highlights from this infographic, and then I'll talk about the future. We served over 6,500 youth through camp, outdoor education experiences in 2021. The number had peaked in 2019, excuse me, at 8,000 students. It dropped a little bit because of COVID, but now we are seeing that inch back up. We provided over 1,500 respite stays for families to connect with each other, to connect with nature, that otherwise really wouldn't have the opportunity to get out in the mountains. Oftentimes we see, and I think you all know, being from the Front Range, there's so many among us that can see the mountains but can't get out and touch them and experience them, and we make it a real goal to be able to do that. We see ourselves in a place where we know we can become a leader in environmental sustainability, and in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space, and that's really opening our doors and being welcoming. With environmental sustainability, we eliminated over 1 million feet of plastic wrap use within the past. I think that was a 12 to 18 month project. We were wrapping things in plastic that didn't need to be wrapped in plastic and got reusable bags for that. And then we had task force focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion that formed in 2020 and now has evolved into a subcommittee of our board of directors, because it's that important that we believe board staff and all of our stakeholders should be engaged in this work. And as I think about the future, we're one of the largest employers and nonprofits in both the Estes Valley and in Grand County. We had over 1,300 staff with us in 2021. That was over 2,000 pre-COVID, and we see that number continuing to grow. So there's the whole economic impact side, that when we can bring in people to serve guests, to serve campers, and those people can in turn connect with nature, then you've got sales taxes and payroll taxes and all of that benefiting the local community, and we're able to make that connection through that.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Impressive numbers. You all are doing great work. It's fun to see them really quantified there. This is a little bit of a question that I already know the answer to, but I'm excited for you to share with the group. When we think about engaging donors and thinking about the future of philanthropy in our communities, if you can share a little bit with those who are watching about how you're engaging a new generation of leaders and contributors so that the YMCA of the Rockies continues to have a sustainable future.
Absolutely. And when I saw this question and was reflecting on it, I think I can answer it in a couple of different ways. One way that, Amanda, you experienced as a camper and counselor at our resident youth camp, is we often have people say that where we may be their first job, either going into or as part of college, that this is the best summer they've ever had, that they get to come and work and experience YMCA of the Rockies, make new friends, connect with nature. So we, again, going back to staff really being part of our mission, are really focusing on how we can continue to make sure that that's happening with young people that are coming to work with us, really across the board, everything from workforce development to international staff to scholarships for staff so that they can come work for us in the summer and have that support base they need to go back to school in the fall, winter, and spring. So that's one area that we're focusing on. I would say our board composition is another area. Our board of directors is made, it's about 30 people, so it's a pretty large nonprofit board made up of people from all across the country, representing all the different folks that come to YMCA of the Rockies. And as we look at the board composition, there's different factors that we're looking at to make sure that we are a diverse board, and age is one of those that we want to make sure we're bringing in those up and coming leaders and who are ready for board service and ready to serve in that way. The same thing I would say with staff leadership roles. Currently, I have 2 final interviews tomorrow to hire our first ever environmental sustainability director. And those are staff that have been here serving in other roles and have a passion and a desire and are developing a knowledge base to serve in that role. So looking at how can we elevate staff over time in developing their leadership skills. And then the last area certainly is with our contributors. Amanda graciously served on what we call the Next Gen Advisory Group to help us really think into and discern. And then a report came out of that went to our board of directors of ways we need to be thinking about engaging the next generation of supporters of YMCA of the Rockies. It's not like our grandparents and parents gave in the past. There's new and different ways to do that. There's the obvious things like social media and giving through Venmo or making gifts of crypto, but there's other things too. There's a big drive, as I'm sure you all see on the Front Range, for if I'm going to give my dollars, I might also want to give my time, and how can those things match up and marry, or how can I bring my kids, my young kids, into being engaged in that process as well. So our board of directors is doing a lot of thinking on, now that we have that feedback and report, how do we live into that with the next generation of supporters.
Awesome. Great work y'all are doing. Excited to be part of that equation. As Carrie mentioned, I was a camp counselor through the YMCA of the Rockies. So any of you who've gone through Leadership Northern Colorado may have heard me at a time say, here's a camp counselor trick in facilitation. So it was an incredible first job, and excited to see all that continues to come out of the work you're doing with inspiring young people. Now, if you can share kind of an inside scoop, we would love to hear your favorite spot on the YMCA of the Rockies property. If you can start maybe with the Estes Park property, just because that's a little closer for those of us to come explore.
It's a great question, and one that is so tough to answer. I wrote down like 5 different spots to be honest, but I will say that, I grew up in Greeley, Colorado, and my parents were not hikers. We never went into Rocky Mountain National Park, but we would come to Estes and shop and do the go-karts, and we would finish with dinner at the Dunraven Inn. And for those of you that have been around Northern Colorado for a while, the Dunraven, which currently sits on Lake Estes, used to be down Highway 66, kind of at the end of Estes before you get to the park. You go one way to the Dunraven and one way to the national park. And we would always finish our family Sunday with dinner at the Dunraven Inn, and I never knew there was anything beyond that. Well, about a mile beyond that is the YMCA of the Rockies Estes Park Center. So when I got to become part of the staff team several years ago, driving in, there's old growth forest that you pass as you drive in, and it's just, it doesn't matter if you're having a rough morning or a bad day, you kind of deflate and take a deep breath, deflate in a good way, to take all the tension away when you get to drive in and experience that. There's many other spots. Some of you may be familiar with Glacier Creek on this side of the mountain as well, and then other places on across the Continental Divide, including Columbine Point at Snow Mountain Ranch, the Waterfowl Trail, and then one of the best views at Snow Mountain Ranch is really looking from Snow Mountain Ranch. You kind of look down a valley into Camp Chief Ouray, and there's nothing like getting to see kids experience camp and hearing the hooping and hollering and knowing that camp builds independence, confidence, and resilience. And when you get to see that and hear that noise, as Amanda knows this phrase, camp magic is happening.
Yes. So thank you for sharing your top 5. It sounds like your
Yeah,
favorite spot.
sorry, I couldn't narrow it down to one.
No, that's perfect. And Columbine Point is one of mine too. So I love hearing you share that. In addition to those spots that we could go find and explore, what are other ways that regional leaders can experience and enjoy the YMCA of the Rockies?
Well, I appreciate this question, because there's so many different ways to engage. And following today's Zoom meeting, I welcome conversation and follow up. You can certainly come and stay with us, as many families do from across Colorado and in other regions. We have a variety of accommodations, everything from camping to yurts to lodge rooms to cabins. You can join us as a member, and if you and your family come up to Estes Park or get to Grand County on a regular basis, it's a great thing to consider, because you get access basically to all of our programming when you join it as a member. And that's everything from climbing walls to hiking trails to tennis courts to Nordic skiing in the winter. It kind of covers the gamut. We certainly invite and welcome people to volunteer as they're able. We have a really strong senior volunteer program where folks either come and stay on site or stay off site and volunteer about an average of about 28 hours a week. It's a great and strong volunteer program. And then we have single day volunteer opportunities as well. You can camp with us. At our resident camp that's overnight, we do have a family camp. You can send your own kids to camp, ages 7 and 17. And then we have a women's adventure camp and a few other fun camps that are, everyone raves about them when they get to experience them. And I will say, as the mom of a couple of campers, I can't say enough about camp. And then most certainly we welcome your financial support so that we can continue to serve youth and families in the many ways that we do through our mission.
Good. Thank you, Carrie. And is there a quick go-to resource for people to find? Sorry, this is a little off of our planned questions, but a website or a tool that we can share with those on the Zoom?
Absolutely. So YMCARockies.org is the easiest website for volunteer and job opportunities. The website is called workintherockies.org. So pretty easy to remember, distinct URLs to access all of those things that I just mentioned.
Great, thank you. And a few final questions as we think more about you as an individual and you as a leader. If you can share with us one or two or just a summary of some of your biggest successes as a leader and points of pride that you've had as you journeyed through your leadership.
Well, I thank you for that question. I have to say that my biggest points of pride come from being part of the success of others, and whether that's in my own children, meeting their iReady goals at school, because I made sure I sat down and read with them at night, or part of organization goals. That's been a huge point of pride. When I was with the Better Business Bureau serving Northern Colorado and Wyoming, we had an ethics education program that became part of the curriculum for many schools throughout Northern Colorado and Wyoming, and we're able to engage some partners in Casper, Wyoming, the Center for Cowboy Ethics, the 3 different universities in the region, CSU, UNC, and University of Wyoming, and then the Daniels Fund and the business community, and helping us to deliver on that, and seeing that come to life and happen was a huge point of pride. I would say here also being tasked with taking on environmental sustainability under my umbrella of leadership is a real honor. It's a passion area for me. We know there's a lot of opportunity and it's an honor to do that. And then the last thing I would say, being in philanthropy, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about fundraising. And I would say the best fundraising story is that to expand our resident camp, Camp Chief Array, over the past number of years, starting in 2018, we undertook a capital campaign and had really good intentions to finish it by no later than middle of 2020. Well, the nice little virus named COVID changed all that. And we had to pause fundraising, reorganize how we were working on construction, and then get back into it so we could serve those kids as quickly as possible, so we could stay ahead of construction inflation and honor the gifts that all donors had made. So we completed the initial fundraising goal of about $6.5 million by the end of 2020. And then at the end of 2021, we had raised an additional $1 million to live into those costs that came with the supply chain, labor, and other challenges from COVID. So that was definitely a win in spite of the challenges that were presented as part of that.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I think it's so important that we celebrate success and recognize those points of pride in our career.
Yeah.
What inspires you? Do you have a favorite leadership book you'd like to share with those on the Zoom?
I do. I'm a person that I read daily devotions. I love to do yoga. I love to get out and take walks in nature. And when you said, what's your favorite book? It was an immediate answer that came into my mind. In my transition between working with the Better Business Bureau and YMCA of the Rockies, I read the book called Find a Way by Diana Nyad. She is the woman that swam from Cuba to Key West, Florida in her 60s. And she tried to do it earlier than that, but faced many uphill challenges, including things like not getting the right visa or permission to launch from Cuba with her team, being stung by jellyfish multiple times on previous events or previous tries. And then finally, I think she was 64. I can't remember the year, but she completed it. And as she came up on shore in Key West, obviously exhausted from the experience, and had her whole team around her because she'd been surrounded by kayaks and boats and lots of support, she said, I want to tell you 3 things. And I just think these are great things to try to strive to live by. She said, the first thing is never give up. The second thing is you're never too old to chase your dreams. Remember, she was in her 60s when she did this. And then the third thing, which I think is most important for all of us to remember as leaders, is it looks like a solitary sport, but it's really a team effort. So those are my Diana and I quotes. It's a great book. If you ever want to read it, I highly recommend it. And I think she's written other books too. So I need to take a dive into those, pun intended, I guess.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. I did drop the link into chat for that book, so appreciate your recommendation. Carrie, we want to thank you so much. We do have time. If anyone has a quick question for Carrie, please drop it into the chat. We do want to respect everyone's time to wrap up by 4. So Carrie, again, we thank you for sharing all your insights. I love sharing the story of the YMCA of the Rockies with other regional leaders. So thank you for being here today. We know it's a busy summer for the property. So thanks for sharing your afternoon. I do want to encourage everyone, excuse me, to save the date for our next leadership moment. So I will pop up the reminder next month on September 13th. We will be joined by David Burks. David Burks is the owner of Sweetheart Winery in Loveland, and he is the newly elected chair of the Northern Colorado Legislative Alliance Board. So we really encourage you to hold that date on your calendar, and we will have the registration available soon. And also, again, thank you to our sponsors of Leadership Northern Colorado. We are very grateful for your support. So thank you to Elevations Credit Union and UC Health. Also want to recognize committee members for the work that they pour into this program. So I know Kim is on the Zoom today. Kim, thank you for your work with the committee. And just thank you all. Have an incredible afternoon. Carrie, we sure appreciate you, and we will see you all next month.
Absolutely. Thank you all for making time today. I appreciate it.